Welcome to the deep dive. So, based on the sources you shared, today we're diving into Anaïs Nin's Delta of Venus. And it's a collection that I think really challenges a lot of our usual ideas about desire. I'm definitely excited to unpack it with you.
Oh, absolutely. And, it's so much more than just, well, sensual stories about physical acts. It's genuinely a deep psychological journey. We're talking intimacy, power, longing.
Right.
And what's really fascinating is how it started, written privately
Yeah.
for some mysterious patron. These tales, they really go beyond just eroticism. They paint these incredibly vivid portraits of people whose secret fantasies, their vulnerabilities, kind of push them to the very edge.
Exactly. Which makes it just perfect for a deep dive, doesn't it? Our goal today is really to immerse ourselves and you in this world, a world where passion, well, it often breaks the rules, and where the mind and body feel equally awakened. Okay, let's unpack this. So when you first pick up Delta of Venus, you notice straight away it's not a novel, is it?
No, not in the traditional sense. It's a collection, 15 short stories, and each one explores eroticism in a really unique way. Different cultural angles, emotional textures, psychological depths.
And the settings themselves feel like part of that journey. You've got Paris, Hungary, Morocco. It covers such a huge range, doesn't
Yeah.
it? From like deeply repressed feelings to really liberated sexuality.
That's right. And Nin's approach is so distinct. She's not just writing about sex, she's mapping out the whole emotional landscape around it. Jealousy, obsession, that raw vulnerability desire can expose, and even transformation.
Hmm.
Her female characters especially, you see them grappling with their own internal contradictions.
Yeah.
They might want freedom, but they're still kind of bound by tradition. They feel desire, but there's also shame or guilt weighing on them.
And that context, that internal struggle, it feels even more powerful when you remember these were written, what, in the 1940s? I mean, talking openly about female sexuality then was pretty much taboo. So how did Nin manage that? How did she confront those silences so directly in her characters? What did that defiance actually look like?
Well, it's interesting because that defiance really comes through in the characters themselves.
Hmm.
You see women um, struggling against the constraints of their time, absolutely craving experience, exploration, some kind of truth about themselves.
Right.
So they often look for relationships outside the usual social boundaries.
Hmm.
Like there's the high society woman who has an affair with a foreigner. It's not really about love. It's more curiosity, the thrill of the secret.
Okay.
Or there's that young girl so repressed by her family who finds her power by watching others. She learns about passion indirectly by observing, not by doing. It's a kind of internal rebellion.
It really sounds like these characters' desires are almost reflections of their inner selves. Is that why you were saying earlier that sex in Nin's work isn't just physical, but tied to identity, maybe even creativity?
Absolutely. You see it so clearly. Like the painter character, he only finds inspiration when his lover acts out certain fantasies. His art literally depends on it.
Wow.
Or the writer who kind of feeds on voyeuristic experiences, turning what he observes into this really poetic language. And then she masterfully blurs those lines, pain and pleasure, submission, dominance. She uses them to expose vulnerabilities.
Mm.
There's that one story, it's really striking, where a woman seems to willingly subject herself to her lover's fantasies. But subtly, almost invisibly, she starts shaping that fantasy into her own vision. She reclaims control, but from the inside out.
That's fascinating, that subtle reclaiming of agency. Does that connect directly to what many people see as the most, well, revolutionary aspect of the book, how it puts women at the center of their own desires, not just as objects?
It absolutely does. That's a key point. Nin just refuses to let her female characters be passive objects. She pulls back the curtain, shows you their inner thoughts, their confusion, their awakenings. They are the subjects of their erotic lives.
Which was pretty radical for the time.
Totally radical. And these women, they feel complex, layered, real, even if they're not always empowered in the way we might think of it today. Like the married woman who has an affair.
Yes.
It's not because she's unhappy with her husband. It's this deep need to experience herself differently, to shed that wife-mother identity and become something unknown, even to herself. And the narrative just observes. It doesn't judge.
Right, no moralizing.
Exactly. Or there's the young woman caught in that triangle with two older lovers. You see her learning to navigate power, attention, moving from naivety to a kind of cunning self-awareness.
You mentioned Nin's own background earlier, her cosmopolitan life. And you really feel that traveling through the stories, don't you? Paris salons, North African deserts. How do those different settings actually enrich the stories? Do they blend the eroticism with culture in specific ways?
Oh, they add so much depth.
Yeah.
Take the story set in Morocco, for instance.
Yeah.
You have a woman exploring this attraction to a man whose whole way of life is different from hers. And what starts as maybe exotic curiosity, it evolves into this intense emotional and sexual awakening. But it's full of conflict, misunderstandings, and eventually some kind of transcendence.
Mm-hmm.
But Nin is careful, I think. She doesn't just fetishize the cultures.
Mm.
It's more about how the unfamiliar, the other, can force characters to confront parts of themselves they've maybe ignored or buried. It sparks internal change.
That makes sense. It's also really striking how many of Nin's characters are, well, watchers. They seem to find satisfaction not just in participating, but in observing. This theme of voyeurism keeps popping up.
It does.
And it doesn't feel presented as just a perversion, does it? It seems more like a metaphor for something else, maybe detachment or fear or just intense curiosity.
Exactly. Think about the man who hires women to perform privately. He only watches, never touches. That distance is his control, maybe his safety net.
Right.
But then, over time, he realizes it's also keeping him from something. He starts craving the risk of real connection, not just the performance. And similarly, there's the young woman discovering her own desires by watching others hiding, listening. She's learning about sex, yes, but also about power, manipulation.
It makes you think, doesn't it, about what it really means to see and to be seen when it comes to desire. How much we learn from the edges.
That's a great way to put it.
And that actually brings us to something else that feels truly, well, revolutionary about Nin's writing.
Wow.
How she kind of inverts the traditional male gaze, you know, that perspective where women are often just presented as objects for male viewing pleasure.
Right, the dominant perspective in so much art and literature.
But Nin flips that. Even when her stories have men trying to dominate or objectify, she shifts the focus, doesn't she? It becomes about how the women internalize that, or resist it, or even play with it.
That's precisely it. Her stories show women putting on masks, playing roles, sometimes completely rewriting the script from within. There's that really potent story. The woman who pretends to be totally submissive, catering to her patrons' every whim. But while she's doing that externally, her inner world is just flourishing. She becomes more self-aware, more empowered in a quiet way. And eventually, she subtly turns the tables. It's not about shouting rebellion. It's this deep psychological shift.
Yeah.
Much more complex.
See, transgression is a major theme, too. Characters are constantly crossing lines, social, moral, personal boundaries, affairs, same-sex encounters, age gaps, power dynamics. It's all in there.
Yes, definitely. But what's interesting is how Nin presents it. It's not usually for shock value, is it? It feels more like it's necessary. Necessary for self-discovery.
Right.
Like the woman who'd never really felt desire before, then finds herself drawn to a much younger man. She's initially ashamed, society tells her she should be, but gradually she embraces it. She sheds those norms and finds real joy, not just in him, but in her own transformation. Or think about the man haunted by the memory of a prostitute. It wasn't the sex he remembers most, it's the way she looked at him. Like she saw right through his act into his loneliness. It suggests that sometimes stepping outside the lines, making those unexpected connections, that's where you find the deepest insights.
So we've talked about themes, characters, settings, but to really round this out, we have to talk about the style itself. What makes Delta of Venus stand out isn't just the content, it's Anaïs Nin's language, isn't it? It's so poetic.
Oh, absolutely.
It often feels like it blurs the line between dream and reality. The prose itself is sensual. Each scene feels almost like, I don't know, a painting.
It really does have that surreal quality. Time feels fluid. Characters don't always act logically. They act out of instinct or fear or craving.
Yeah.
And that dreamlike tone, it adds so many layers. It makes the stories feel kind of timeless and psychologically very deep, like you're tapping into the subconscious.
It's like reading someone's most vivid, intimate dream sometimes.
Exactly.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, it's really clear, isn't it? Delta of Venus is way more than just erotic stories. It's this profound literary look into the hidden corners of human nature, almost like a psychological map drawn through desire.
I think Nin's genius is right there, writing about desire without making it shallow or meaningless. Her characters, they might not always be likable, but they feel real, driven by needs that go way beyond just the physical. And these stories, they really do challenge our neat little boxes about morality, intimacy, identity. They show us that eroticism, at least in Nin's world, isn't just about pleasure. It's fundamentally about transformation.
Through fantasy, transgression, vulnerability.
Right. You see characters become something new, something maybe even they didn't expect.
So whether you approach this collection as literature or maybe philosophy or art, Delta of Venus really holds up as this powerful testament to just how rich human experience can be. It does make you wonder, doesn't it, what hidden parts of your own nature might come to light if you allowed yourself that kind of exploration. Well, thank you for joining us on this pretty intimate journey through Anaïs Nin's Delta of Venus, based on everything you shared with us.
Yeah, we really hope this deep dive maybe stirred your imagination or perhaps sparked some new ways of thinking for you.
If you enjoyed this exploration, please do follow the deep dive. We'll have more literary journeys, more stories where, passion and philosophy meet. Until next time, keep reading, keep wondering, and never stop exploring the stories that move us.